Okay. All right, Chase. Yeah, I'm sorry, Marty. I read the race car. I pulled up the race car document. I'm looking at on the split screen. It says, please put your thoughts, experiences, or observations about race into one sentence in 6 words. So then the second question is, as a group, compare your sentences. So I should probably give you a minute to think about that, or as you think about that, you can maybe come up with something and then compare them and see if we can see a trend.
Race really doesn't mean very much.
Okay, why don't you write that one down, because that's going to definitely give us something to talk about. It's going to be a short conversation, but it's going to give us something to think about.
Well, 6 words, I was like, well, what can you say?
Do you want to hear mine? Race
Yeah.
really does not truly exist.
Okay, that's a better way.
I think we're on the same page. I mean, we are you know, let me do this again. What was yours, Marty?
I said race really doesn't mean very much.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, it's just for us as people to categorize other people. That's it.
And we pretty much have determined that race is a non-thing. But you know what though? I think where the big emphasis is in the media. I wonder if the media has created race.
You know, I've looked at a lot of the things, and I think that we are so used to living a certain way and expecting certain behaviors from certain people that when some people step out of those behaviors, it sometimes is accepted as acceptable, even if it's not. And so one of the examples I'm going to give is last year had a commencement exclusively for their Black students of that class. And that's probably fine. I don't really care. But it was a way of excluding other people. And we start thinking that one group of people are different than another group. We worked so hard to remove lines of exclusion, and that was one that was on the reverse side of what we normally see on a daily basis, which was weird because so often we see exclusion happening on the other direction.
Yeah. And I wonder what they expected to accomplish. It's kind of like an exclusive club that you don't know the secret password to or the secret handshake.
Kind of like the what were those the Giddy Aunt and robbers and their secrets, all their undergrounds and underdealings.
Yeah, secret combinations. Yep, exactly. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'm looking at this document, the race card, and right now I've only got yours and my sentences on here. It says, go to the racecardproject.com and look at the sentences other people have submitted on the race card wall. What sentence stands out to you both individually and as a group? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, now where's it at? Racecard.
Let me see. The racecardproject.com.
RACECARD project. There it is.
Wait, hang on a second.
Okay. .org or .com?
.com, yeah.
Okay. There's 2 of them. One says
really?
racecardproject.org. So I'm going to go to the .com one. There we go. Is this the one where it's I'm Dominican and I'm proud? She said the Jews killed Jesus. Let's see here. Race card wall. There we go. I'm getting on the race card wall.
Yeah, I'm waiting for mine to boot up yet.
We are crayons in a chalk box. Race is perception. Adjust yours. That one's kind of nice.
Then yeah.
Hate
That's
is
an
why we
interesting.
cannot wait. I'm just
Some
reading a
interesting
whole
stuff
bunch
on
of
it.
them. Yeah. Progressives destroyed race relations in America.
Relations anymore.
Oh, I like this one. The day after the world changes.
Oh, okay.
Day after anything, the world changes.
Yep.
Kind of interesting.
Oh, that's a sad one.
Which
Spoke
one?
about King. Spoke about King. Classmates shunned me. Whoa.
Wow. I was just a year old when I was adopted. I was born in India and grew up in a small town. Well, that one doesn't seem bad. They're just talking about who they are.
Yeah.
I was a senior in high school. You know, it says, wow. So interesting. Probably.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, there.
I was
Okay.
reading this one about I'm in the inside, not
Oh, I'm
outside.
sorry. Yeah, I'm
Johnny.
just looking at that one.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I don't know. Which one do I think I like the best? I might go back to that one I read that I thought was just interesting. Where is he?
Yeah, which sentence stands out to you?
Race is perception. Adjust yours.
You like that one?
I think that's the one that sticks out to me. That one and well, just because we're so full of the world where there's all kinds of hate and race on TV all the time. I also kind of like the one right below it. Says hate is why we cannot wait.
Yeah.
Both of those I think are probably.
And what is yours again, Marty? Race is.
Race doesn't really mean
No, I mean
anything.
the one you liked on this page.
Oh, race is perception. Adjust yours.
I like the one down. This is interesting. I wish I could read more about it. Spoke about King. Classmates shunned me.
Yeah, I thought that one was
Which-
interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
They're almost like one-line poems almost. There's something almost artistic about them.
Yeah. Articulate responsible, then color doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is an interesting question that's on our race card document, the next question down. How do the sentences submitted by members of dominant groups differ from those submitted by people from minority groups?
Well, I think when we look at the ones by the minority, they usually talk about peace. I mean, hate is why we can't wait. And most of them, I think the ones that I'm actually relating to that I like are by the, I can't remember what you were just saying, but by people that have less power in society. They are the ones that seem to be, you know, we shouldn't be hating, we should be loving. Some of them, though, like I'm Dominican and I'm proud. I think it's okay to be proud of who you are, but it doesn't show any kind of humility. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think that the pride of some people comes out in their statements where the humility in others comes out. And it seems like people that are from the less powerful section seem to be a little bit more on the having more of the humility.
Mm-hmm.
Saw that in the Book of Mormon too, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, definitely. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I got to go to that race. I didn't read that one. I watched the video that we were supposed to talk a little bit about the implicit bias. So now I'm going to go back to that other where you saw that race thing.
The race card?
Yeah, the race card and BYU.
Okay.
I don't know how I got to there. Holy hot potato. There we go. All right. So we each have to turn this all into some sort of a note on it, on what we did week 2.
What part are you talking about, Marty? I think I'm losing.
From our having talked in this meeting today, and that we got together and we tried to have a group meeting. We each have to turn in that assignment, and so
Let me try to find out where that is.
It's under the group activity.
Hang on. Okay, I got the group activity. Okay, so the group activity is attached as a Word document. That's the race card thing that we've been working on. We just went to the race card project website. Mm-hmm. And now we're supposed to read an article about racism on college campuses. You want me to pull that up?
Sure. And, you know, I will tell you, when that was one of the things I was looking at when I first started looking at what I'm going to do as my project for the end of the year was different things that's happening in colleges, because colleges seem to be kind of out there and doing things. And one of them was and I was looking at the reverse side of discrimination, because we always see discrimination in the one direction. We don't always see it happening in the reverse. And so, like, in Harlem, they had in Harvard, they had the all black commencement for their people, and nobody of any other race were invited, only African Americans. At CU in Boulder, Colorado, they just built a dorm that is exclusively for African Americans, and nobody else can live in that dorm. And I mean, if you built a dorm and you said, well, this is only for Caucasian people, that would be looked at as racist. How you can't exclude people. But in the opposite direction, taxpayer funded, it was paid for, and they built this entire dorm. In Washington State University, they had a Caucasian free day.
Wow. Well, it sounds like we're going back to segregation voluntarily, where the African Americans that fought so much for desegregation. Now they're voluntarily going back to it.
Right. So we've come so far forward in our thinking towards races, and I mean, now it's like seems like it's backwards to me, and we're doing, because you wouldn't do that and allow that to be acceptable any place. And
Oh, yeah.
but those were three college examples that I found directly related to campuses, and that was last year in 2016 and 17 when I was because
Wow.
this is my second time taking this class. The first time I was too busy and I said, oh, I can't keep up with the homework, and so I dropped it right away so I didn't get a bad grade. And
Yeah.
I told Sister Aki I was coming back this semester, so because I have to get this class done. And I had looked at these things before when I was submitting what I thought I wanted to look at a project. Is it what are we doing? We're going backwards in time, but in a voluntary manner, and it just seems
Yeah,
odd.
exactly. Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
taxpayers are paying for some of it. So,
Yeah, and I wonder how they feel about that. Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder if we can get this read and really discuss it. I'm not sure what we need to discuss about it. About racism on college campuses, and suggest that millennials have more accepting racial attitudes than previous generations. Racism continues to persist. What social and cultural factors do you think contribute to racism among college students? What measures can universities take to decrease racism among their students? Well, I mean, off the top of my head, what you were just saying, there would have to be a desire to want to decrease racism and embrace, inclusion.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that to try to go away from. Some of them are going back to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really an interesting conundrum. Let me try to open up this art. I thought I can't even. I've lost track of how many tabs I've got open now.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it, and it's baby boomers stick out of the more revolutionary generation, at least compared to the silent generation that immediately preceded it.
Mm-hmm.
So they were more accepting, it looks like. And then the millennials are very similar to the Gen X. I mean, it's almost hasn't changed since Generation X. They're less prejudiced. I think it's because we're seeing more and more of people in the world, and we're becoming more accepting, is what I'm trying to say, types of living. Interracial marriage, it's all of that's been on the rise. And the first time I don't want this to sound bad, but sometimes the first time you're exposed to something, you're not accepting of it, which is sometimes very good. And then continued exposure makes you so that it doesn't bother you, or it dulls and makes it okay. And in some things, it's best that that's the way it is. But I'm kind of using an analogy of, like, okay, let's just say drinking coffee. The first time you try to take a drink of coffee, oh my gosh, it's horrible. It's bitter. Nobody wants to drink coffee when they're a kid. How many kids say, oh, pour me a cup of coffee? They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's bitter and it's horrible. But the more you expose yourself to it, the less horrible it becomes, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the more accustomed you get to it, yeah.
And it's not that I think that interracial marriage or any of that stuff is a horrible thing, but I think the more that we're exposed to it, the more accepting we become of it. We learn to tolerate it, which is good in that case, I believe.
Yeah. I'm trying to think where I heard it. It might have been in my last class in this last fall, talking about how there are certain ethnicities that are built on certain characteristics. Italian families are very big on family. Arab families live in multi-generational homes. Mexicans, Africans, community and family is very important. And if they don't have that, then they're at a loss. Whereas in the United States, most of us live in single family homes. And our oldest son and his wife live within walking distance, but they live in their own home. Our middle son and daughter-in-law and our grandchildren live in Las Vegas. That we don't have the multi-generational family that a lot of ethnic groups are used to. And when those ethnic norms are withdrawn, that's when those groups start having a difficult time. And we relate that, we equate that then to being lazy, to being uneducated. They can't take care of themselves. Well, no, it's not. We're not familiar with makeup and how that group works.
I agree. One of the things that I presented in my last class was that one of the reasons that we have, because everybody's like, why is there so much friction in the United States ethnically? And I said, well, as people, if you go and you travel and you go to Mexico, you see a lot of Mexican people. It's not a very diverse population. If you go to China, there's not a very diverse population there. When they see somebody who's Caucasian or Black or Mexican, it's a rarity to them, and they are very interested in all other nationalities because they don't see it. But here in the United States, we're a melting pot. We have had so much where we've been pushed together, and we have to learn to deal with each other's differences. That's part of where comes some of the conflict, because people with different thoughts, customs, and beliefs living in one area, that it causes some friction. And I don't think it's that we are terribly people, or that we are we have that much hatred, as it's always stated. I think the biggest part of it is that nation. There's not very many nations that have the same makeup as the United States when you look at how many different ethnicities there are here.
No, now that said, I think there are countries that are, for lack of a better word, up and coming. We were just in Canada in June when we picked up our son, and there's a very, very high Asian population in Western Canada. There's a large Muslim population. And a lot of other ethnicities are immigrating to Canada and the UK, to England. And so they're kind of trying to establish their own sense of self. The indigenous population is trying to maintain some kind of cohesion, but assimilate these other ethnicities, which is very interesting.
Do you think that they're having some of the issues that we have been having for years and years, where there's some friction? I know that, like, Canadians are very peaceful and accepting people, the ones that I know, but I've not been to Canada to see the ones that live there and maybe aren't as peaceful.
It's not quite, it's not nearly the degree of immigration that is in the United States yet, but there are growing ethnic populations in Canada and in England.
Yeah.
But what the dominance is, I don't know. I mean, I know one of my son's companions in the Canada Vancouver mission was called to speak Chinese. So part of the Canada Vancouver mission does have need of Chinese speaking missionaries, because there are Chinese immigrants living in Canada that don't speak English, and it's the eastern side, that's the French Canadian, that speaks the French and has the French dominance, but the western borders, the western half of Canada is English, dominant English, and so but there is still this massive need for Chinese speaking missionaries in Canada, which I think is very interesting.
It's cool. I mean, the world is becoming, as we get more and more technologically advanced, just like BYU Idaho. My last class, I had a person from Africa and a person from Mexico in my class.
Okay.
And it was very interesting that we were having exposure to each other and each other's cultures, and we're miles and miles and miles and miles apart, but we were able to sit and get onto hangouts just like this and have conversations. And
Sure.
so I think the world is becoming a smaller place because of technology.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And I think the tolerance is improving with technology. Maybe I'm just stuck in a dream world where I think that people are actually getting along better. I mean,
yeah.
We hear about everything that's horrible, but we don't hear about the good. And that's the thing. I mean, it doesn't do media any great to report the good that people are doing for each other, black, white, Hispanic, or whatever, Canadian, all the things that people are doing good for each other. We don't have to talk about that because, well, that's not going to people's emotions, and it's not going to make things look even worse. And so what we hear wants us to hear, because that's what news is. It gets people's attention.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the good things that the church would have us do doesn't increase ratings, and it doesn't buy airtime, or doesn't sell newspapers.
Yeah. One of my very favorite conference reports was President Hinckley was still alive, and they had that flooding in the down in Central America, and President Hinckley was in somebody's house and in their basement shoveling mud out of their house. People he never knew, and people from Central America, they weren't American people, they weren't Caucasian, and everybody was helping everybody, because that's just what good people do. They help each other.
Yeah.
Was that newsworthy? The church shared it and showed, but about it in the world news, because it didn't fan the flames of hatred. I think that's what I really believe.
Right, and I wonder how big the media's part is in that, because for the longest time, all we heard was aggression white toward black. Well, you can't tell me that that's all that was happening. You can't tell me that. And so I wonder if a lot of this race division isn't media motivated.
You can take it back even a further step to World War II and the Nazis and neo-Nazis in Germany, and everybody. Not that all the German people were bad, but there were German people that were trying to save people that were of the Jewish faith, and people that didn't agree with what Hitler's point was. There were good German people, but we don't hear about those. We hear about the Nazis. And so again, what gets published and what gets pushed into the media on a regular basis is what's going to make your emotions high. And
yeah,
love and peace don't push us to these really high emotions. Well, not most of us. That should be the kind of high we're looking for all the time, because when you see something that's just a fantastic thing that happens in life, and it brings a tear to your eye because your heart is filled with love, that's the best kind of news. But it's not what we hear. We hear the kind of news that flames the the hatred between peoples. And it's like, you know, let's move away from that. Let's report the good. Let's leave the bad out.
Yeah,
Stop.
and like I said, that doesn't sell newspapers. That doesn't increase ratings. That doesn't, do any good. And I think we've become such a sensationalistic um, society, at least American society, that it has to be bigger and badder and worse and more violent and more. I'm going to use bad English, but more worse. It has to be really, really bad.
Oh yeah.
And that's too bad. Well, and what's interesting too, I've been digging around here. I'm looking at this article that's on the bottom of this race card worksheet, and where'd it go? It's called. It says millennials are just as racist as their parents. And one of the questions is, what's happening there? Well, what's really being taught in homes? Is that a source of contention? In that these millennials are taking these ideas and these thoughts to school, to college campuses, where you think that they'd be a little more enlightened. Usually the upcoming generation claims to be more enlightened and they have better ideas. I mean, look what happened with assemblers. Antonio wanted to, in the case study, Antonio wanted to keep things the way they were, and if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. But Ricardo came along and he had all these great ideas. And you would think that some of these kids coming off to school would be more embracing of a better world, and they would want to make a difference. But this article doesn't seem to think that a lot of these ethnic stereotypes are still very, very common. Which
in that race card as I was scrolling and looking at it, it did show that, from the traditionalists, the baby boomers became the most tolerant, as it showed the bar graph as they came down dramatically, and then the X gens even more so. But from the generation X gen and the millennials, it's about the same. So we're not becoming any more tolerant than where we are now.
Right. Yeah. And you would think that we'd make all these great strides, but apparently that's just not in the cards just yet.
I think it boils down to exactly what you said. What are they learning at home? Because what we learn at home is what we portray out in the world and in public. And so getting everybody to realize that, and maybe we've become as accepting as we're going to be of other people, even though we as look at it medically, there's no difference between any of us. I mean, if I'm laying and I need a heart transplant, a person that is a African American person can donate a heart to me as easy as a Caucasian person, and I can, if I was hit by a car and they could take my heart and donate it to somebody, they could give it to anybody. It all works the same because we're all the same.
Yep. That's crazy stuff.
All right.
Let me take a look at this last. Let me take a look at this last question on this race card document and see just about everything here. Excuse me. Okay. Although general trends suggest that millennials have more accepting racial attitudes than previous generations, racism continues to persist. Here's the question. What social and cultural factors do you think contribute to racism among college students? I just wrote in here preconceived ideas or ideas brought from their home environment.
I think that's big, but I also think it goes to from not only the home environment, but it's your area that you're from. I mean, when you have people that grow up in a place where there's very little exposure to any kind of person of color, they they don't really understand that kind of person's life. And so, like, living in the suburbs is completely different. Barbara, would you get that cat out of that drawer? I got a cat crawling in my drawer.
Lovely.
Crazy. But they people that come from the inner cities and where there's so much racial differences, they don't really know how to take being with just one place where there's a majority of a certain person, and so they come with their different thoughts too. And I think that's part of it is, what is our location? Where are we at? That was one of the things with the looking at the police shootings. I looked at the police shootings in 2017 because there was such a number of Black people that were shot by the police, and it was making the news, and it helped to make Black Lives Matter become such a huge thing. But when you actually look at the Washington Post, they track how many people are killed by the police, and Caucasians were almost 2 times as many as Black people. But why did we not hear about it? Because
exactly.
The Caucasians it happens in a more rural area. It's not happening where the population is very dense. And so when it happens in a place where it's densely populated, everybody knows about it. And so I think that's part of it.
Yeah. Now this is how I've answered this question. Then we've got one more. Okay. So the question is, what social and cultural factors do you think contribute to racism among college students? That's the question. I've got perceived ideas or ideas brought from their home environment. It also addresses where you're from. Students living without exposure to people of color or different ethnicities will have a harder time understanding them, whereas students from the inner city have had more experience with multi-ethnicities. Is that fair?
I think that is. I think that their issue for that is you have that opposite issue of where you how to be with a large group of where there's a majority of one group of people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
when you're in inner cities and you're in that area where you have so much mixture, when you put them into someplace like a campus where it's 98% of one group of people, they don't know how to act or respond either, because they came from a place where there was where there was high levels of diversity.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
This is good. I'm struggling with this last question.
Okay.
Because
can you
and I'm sorry.
Oh, Bagheera's got your sister's sandwich. Sorry. We have a cat that's name is Bagheera, and he's just a kitten. He's gotten into the drawer. He's a troublemaker today.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, this is the last question. I'm really struggling with this one, and I'll explain it in a second, Marty. Here's the question. What measures can universities take to decrease racism among their students? I'm having a difficult time answering that question without the word mandatory in it. My first thought was, do not allow reverse segregation, or do not allow segregated dorms like you were just talking about. I was just suggesting that there be a mandatory introductory class on tolerance and embracing differences. But I don't know what these universities can do, like I said, that doesn't necessitate a mandate. They have to do that. Well, you're going to have people screaming, oh, you're stepping on my rights and you can't make me do this. Well, we all have to play nice in the sandbox. The sandbox is getting smaller and smaller every day.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. When you work at a company, to discriminate against a person by sex, their orientations,
whatever,
whatever, you can't discriminate against them, and that's what we need to make some sort of so that people know you can't discriminate against people in colleges. And by having segregated anything, we're promoting what do you call that? I just said it a second ago. I'm getting
My
tired
brain's
'cause-
kind of frying up too.
yeah, it's getting to be bedtime close to me for me. But when you have segregation, we're promoting the ability for people to have differences of opinions, and we're promoting bias because you know, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. In a way, you can't discriminate on any of those things, and it should be the same way in schools and universities. They shouldn't be allowed to separate themselves because they want to be with people of their like whatever. I mean, that's fine. If I was going to on-campus university and I had a chance to go and be a roommate with my buddy Billy, who I grew up with, that I think that's fine. But we shouldn't be able to be in a place where they say, okay, well, this is only for people from Washington State. This is a
Right.
because those people like to eat potatoes and beef, and we're going to put the people that are from the South who like to have cornbread and beans in a whole nother dorm. I mean, you're creating segregation instead of creating a community.
Right. Now, this is an idea that I just came up with. I think the responsibility needs to be taken off the university itself because that's an authoritarian role. Okay. This is what I've been typing up. This is a difficult question to answer that does not have the word mandate in it. Ask students to set examples by intermingling with other ethnicities, and demonstrate tolerance. Tolerance and acceptance.
Tolerance and acceptance.
Put this back on the kids.
Yeah. That was worded very well.
So yeah, that's all I can come up with. I mean, because like I said, all of a sudden, you've got the university getting heavy-handed, telling the students what they can and can't do, and now the ACLU's involved, and everybody's stepping on everybody's rights and all that. And if they're compelled to do it, are they going to really learn anything? Yeah. Whereas if some of the students were to get together and, like I said, set that example, like the children on the playground, that might be the first step that can be used to kind of bring this around a little bit. And I think too that we have to develop a thicker skin. You don't like the color of my earrings and I'm all bent out of shape. Really? Seriously? We have to learn not to be offended every time somebody looks sideways at us.
Yeah. I mean, we're different. We're all going to be different. And just because you like blue and I like red doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
No. My mom said it best. That's why they make chocolate and vanilla.
Well, let's
so
leave strawberry out though.
Okay. Yeah, the strawberry contingent's going to sue us. Perfect. Good job, Marty.
Exactly. Sorry, I had to bring it up, didn't I?
You did. You had to go there. You had to go there. Well, actually, I opened up that can of worms, and it's too late to put that genie back in the bottle. So, okay. Well, I think we've about done this. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the
recording,
the broadcast. Yeah, I'm going to stop the broadcast. I'm going to cut and paste this URL along with this document that we've come up with.
There's my naughty kitty.
Hey, naughty kitty. Let me see.
Say
something, Marty.
He's a little kitten.
Oh, look at those eyes.
Yeah, he's naughty.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Into everything today.
Love it. Okay, so does that sound like a doable plan to you then? I'm going to go ahead and save this document and the recording, and I'll submit all of that. Did you want to send the email to her for the extra credit points?
Yes, I'm going to send the email too. And we're all supposed to submit some sort of document. I thought it said we all had to submit the document. So whatever.
Oh, maybe
we
that's what it is. Yeah.
group, let's see, I read that someplace. So we
Okay.
all the document. Each member of the group submits their own copy of the group document. So since you typed it, if you share it, then we'll all submit it, and that's what. Did you see that up there?
Okay. What page are you looking at? What is it called, Marty?
On the assignment for, I'm going to scroll up to the very top of it. It is Group 2 activity. What is race?
Okay.
Due Saturday at 11 p.m.
Right.
And then it says to make sure that we have somebody picked to be the lead student. And since you were doing the typing and I think you started the recording, that makes you the lead this time. And that, so either I can lead or somebody else. I'm not very good with the Hangouts thing, but I'll get there.
But I can connect everybody. That's the least of it. That's easy for me. So I can connect everybody, but it's getting the dialogue going and keeping us on task.
Yeah. And then it says under activity, it says the red card doc in have finished the activity and recorded your group's response. Click the button below to submit the document. Each member of the group submits their own copy of the group document.
Okay. So, so I've got mine, and yeah.
Share it, and I think we'll have to get some response and input from the folks that weren't here. I never heard back from that one Chase. She said she was in school until 7:30, and I'm just checking my instant messages. I got nothing back from her yet either. Okay. And you invited everybody, so
I did, yeah, a couple times, yeah. So do you want me to submit the Google Hangout? Now, do we even have to submit the Google Hangout?
When we did this at my last class, we submitted it for the teacher, or we saved it and made it available for people to watch.
Okay.
And somehow there's a way to, because you broadcasted it, and so they can go back and watch it.
Yeah. Do I have to send it to the instructor though, so that she knows who was here?
Let me see here what it says here. We'll email the Zoom link of the students who recorded it, and who will record the meeting, and the other students in your group. It doesn't say, you may use Zoom as a meet, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Help sitting. The lead student for the will email the link to the other, to the students to the student who will record record it. Yeah. I would say yes. Send her the link to it.
Okay. Now, since it was just us here, that's not going to change. So I'm going to go ahead and send her the link. I'm going to go ahead and upload my answers and what I've been working on here tonight and be done with it. And I've got you notated here. We compared sentences and stuff like that, and I've got yours on there, the ones that stood out to me on the racecard.com and all that. So I've got you noted on that, and then I've got our group answers, of 2 people as a group. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and submit that tonight and be done with it.